This is my first time at PRF. I want to start by asking you a few questions. Think back to the last time you participated in flavor and sensory analysis of your coffees or of coffees you're connected to. Who else was in the room with you? Was there a diverse group? And by that I mean, was there representation from origin, genders, professional experiences, or ages? And was everyone participating in the evaluation, or was it dominated by a few? While some of you may have answered yes to these questions, I would guess that many might have said no to most of them. The truth is, only a small percentage of coffee professionals have the ability to gain formal training and certification to define the quality and value of our global coffee economy. The people most left out of the conversation are the people producing our coffees. This talk is intended to explore how we can expand the definition of value and quality beyond the cup score, and why more sensory collaboration across our supply stream can benefit us all. I want to begin with a little bit of an intro. I started my career almost 4 years ago in coffee when I launched my own brand in California. The mission behind my brand is to support women producers and women across the coffee supply chain. This brought me to the Women-Powered Coffee Summit in Costa Rica, hosted by Bean Voyage in 2022, where I met 2 other women who shared the same passions. Together, we started a nonprofit called TWICE, which stands for Team Women in Coffee Exchange. The initial idea of TWICE was to create a green coffee exchange that would promote connection and equitable feedback outside of monetary motivations between women producers and roasters in the United States. Through our work and connection with producers and industry folks, we've noticed how large of a role cup scores have on determining the price of green coffee. Yet, formal certification programs are inaccessible to many people across the industry, specifically in coffee origins. As part of our research, we've conducted a few focus groups around coffee quality with women producers from various countries and roasters from across the United States. Through these meetings and from our individual experiences, we noticed a few key themes. First, the cup score given on a coffee has a huge impact on the price of that coffee, despite all the work that has gone into producing and processing it, and despite the potential end market opportunities. Second, roasters and producers seek more connection and understanding on what others in their supply chain experience. Producers we spoke with want to learn more about how roasters make buying decisions and market to their customers. And they also want more direct communication with roasters, but don't have pathways due to factors like language or a reliance on their supply chain partners. And roasters we spoke with also wanted more connection and communication with producers, and to learn more about how they can provide more value to them. Lastly, roasters typically don't purchase coffee based on the cup score alone, but more around how they can market the coffee in their specific sector and what their business model looks like. Now, to quickly recap, the current scoring standard, the SCA Q grading form, was designed as a calibration tool to help people across the industry better establish quality standards and to help minimize exploitation of producers. Unfortunately, it is not always successful and often is expected to fulfill more tasks than its initial intended use. For example, it is often used as a tasting guide and can result in implying that the higher the score, the better, which means buy this coffee. or that producers should be trying to get the highest score possible to make the most money. But as we'll cover a bit later, this is not always how roasters buy coffee. It may not be the most effective way for producers to translate sensory feedback into improved sales. Also, people across the industry seem to use the form a little bit differently, and partners in the same supply stream often don't understand how others are using it. We heard from several producers about their experiences with cup scores. One producer said they were told the score for specialty coffee started at 85 points. Another producer told us how they had heard from a Q grader they encountered at an industry dinner who had tasted their coffee that their coffee would score at least 5 points higher than what their exporter had purchased it for. And another producer described how they needed to constantly nudge the roasters for feedback on their samples, not knowing if they should hold that green coffee for that lot of green coffee for them, or that their coffee was even the right fit for their business. We also heard that many producers who may have decades of experience already want access to additional SCA training in order to establish greater credibility. This supports the idea that credibility lends power. And in this context, that means power is not distributed equitably. There's a gap there. And credibility is associated with a higher level of sensory skills. While the current grading system has helped greatly advance quality regulations globally, there is room for more opportunities. One big factor that is missed is how many roasters buy their coffee. Roasters navigate complex factors that affect their buying decisions that aren't linked to the cup score at all. To name a few, they're thinking about what roast profiles are performing best and which coffees tend to fit that level, what their growth strategy is, and which coffee profiles will facilitate that. What values take precedent? Is the coffee produced by women? Or does it have a certification like organic or fair trade? Or is it traceable back down to the farmer? And then what is the price point range for green coffee that will allow their company to grow sustainably and profitably? And this is among other major factors. Another key factor is consumer behavior. Consumer preferences change from region to region, country to country, and sector to sector. Consumers perceive quality and value very differently from a much wider range of parameters than the coffee industry. They have a different sense of value when buying coffee in a grocery store versus a cafe, in a restaurant versus a specialty coffee shop, or if the brand is well known or not, and the list goes on. For example, I run into these factors constantly as a small roaster and coffee brand with a strong values-based approach into every aspect of my business. I've developed a product offering trying to attract a variety of customer preferences, from lighter roasts, which I tend to prefer, and darker roasts, which many, many customers have asked for. And when doing in-person events, since I don't own my own cafe, customers seem really interested in learning about the mission behind my business, which is supporting women producers, and just learning about the producing and processing that goes behind the coffee. But when it comes down to it, the price is key in determining on whether or not they see the value to be a repeat customer. I've had customers tell me I don't charge enough for my coffee, and I've had many customers tell me I charge too much. When considering purchasing green coffee, I'm thinking about if I am pursuing a direct-to-consumer customer or a wholesale customer in order to sell that coffee and make a profit. Lastly, but maybe most importantly, a factor that is missed is access to sensory training and certification programs in coffee origins is incredibly limited and expensive for most people, and even for many people across the industry like myself. This leaves out a vast knowledge base of what the industry defines as high quality and value, resulting in a minority of the industry making decisions for the rest of us. This brings me to the core aspect of my talk, the ways that we can foster an inclusive discussion on coffee value and quality. By including producers in sensory analysis, the conversation around coffee's value become more diverse and mutually beneficial across the supply stream. Stronger connections can be made that can lead to more equitable and lasting business relationships. We can calibrate our sensory language with our supply stream partners using shared tools online that can help define quality that directly applies to our business needs. With better language, we can communicate more efficiently and target our customers' needs, our team's needs, and our partners' needs. We can also develop safe spaces in which to share sensory development and explore the definition of quality outside of institutional approaches. There are increasingly more tools online that can help us all on our journey to develop our own sensory skills, and many of them are free. I'd like to share a few here. The first is the SEA cupping form announced last year. This is the new SEA cupping form. It was released with the intent to make sensory analysis more descriptive. This new version of the cupping form has a section focused on sensory exploration that can be more tailored to cultural and personal experiences. This can be helpful for learning some of the aspects of assessing quality in the context of the standardized process. This form is available in Spanish and in English, but this link and QR code will link you to the Spanish version. Another great tool, which unfortunately is only in English, is from notbadcoffee.com. And this is an interactive flavor wheel. This helps anyone learn what the different terminology means in association with commonly available mainstream products. Using this, anyone can practice tasting their coffee and explore associated smell and tastes. And I can walk through a few tips of how to use the wheel for those of you who are seeing this for the first time. The wheel is structured with the more general descriptions in the middle, and then as you go out to the outer rings, it gets more detailed. So for example, fruity might mean, like a fruity taste might lead to berry or citrusy, a sweetness that's either more berry or citrusy. And then in the little pop-up window, that's an example there, you can learn what the industry associates with each of those sweeter flavors. And that's just, one example of how you can use it. And then when you get your tasting notes from a roaster or an exporter-importer, you can locate it on this wheel and learn, are they using more general terms, which is in the middle, or more specific terms, which is on the outside? More specific can fall within multiple categories, which often means your coffee is more complex. But not every roaster wants complex coffee. Some roasters don't like that. Sorry. The key to developing sensory skills is practice, tasting your coffees every day and using tools to help develop the words and terminology around what you're experiencing will enable better communication with potential buyers. Producers who have language to describe their own coffee can make connections more quickly with roasters who are looking for those same characteristics in the green coffee that they want to purchase. Of course, not everyone has access to roasting and tasting their own coffee, but practice can start with any coffee. Trying different brands, different varieties, different roast levels. These are all great ways to start working on articulating the differences you find in a cup. And importers and exporters can send roasters samples of their coffee to the farmers that they work with to help them develop their own sensory skills around their own coffee. Knowing your coffee's characteristics can enable better targeting to potential buyers who are looking for these characteristics, and to send samples to customers who are more likely to buy, saving time and money. And producers can ask more specific questions and learn from their exporter-importer partners what terms they use to describe their coffee to potential customers and what type of customers they target. This can give producers more insight into how their coffees are being marketed and sold. This can build stronger partnerships based on marketing potential of their coffee's specific characteristics. Developing sensory skills can create a space for you and your team to explore together. Learning diverse perspectives and foster stronger connections about your coffee you offer, all outside of institutional pressures. This safe space can be especially beneficial for women and minority producers and industry folks who may not feel safe in conventional sensory training. Producer communities can get together to practice tasting each other's coffee. Exporter-importers can create space for their full team to explore together without certification credentials. And developing these sensory skills within your own team grows confidence personally and as a group, which can lead to more open exchanges within your supply stream beyond business transactions and expectations. We are all more comfortable with our own skills. When we are all more comfortable with our own skills, we are more likely to share our own experiences, which can lead to more honest, sincere communication with our supply stream partners and a more diverse representation. Now, we know that supply streams look differently. Not all producers send their own samples, and not all of these recommendations will work for everyone. But we can work together to broaden the conversation about coffee value and quality and bring in more of our supply stream partners. In doing so, producers will feel a stronger sense of self-advocacy and confidence, specifically women and other marginalized people who are most consistently left out of negotiation and business discussions. We can begin to close the knowledge gap within the supply chain to strengthen relationships around shared goals with our partners. And most importantly, maybe, we can build stronger, more inclusive coffee communities free from institutional pressures and barriers, resulting in a more equitable and accessible definition of quality for all. Thank you.